Hey, welcome to the show. Sorry, my dog's trying to get in on the action. Hi, Blue. Yeah, the show started, buddy. Go sit down. Yeah, my computer got fried, so I got an iPad. We're doing it from the iPad today. So bear with us if there's any technical difficulties on either end, because it seems like they changed the UX and UI on either Restream and or Twitter. But the name of the show this week is Bitcoin is the Canary in the Coal Mine. And let's thank our sponsors first. Let's get to that. We want to thank Quantum Expeditions. We want to thank, obviously, the team at QE is doing off-grid mining using methane, and eventually they want to get into other renewables as well. And right after they started doing this, I probably within a couple of weeks, I had stated that don't be surprised if they start doing this with municipal dumps. And within, I think, a week of me saying that, I saw Daniel Batten saying the same thing. This is huge. So pay attention. All the energy companies in the world are starting to figure this out, that Bitcoin incentivizes wasted energy, right? This is huge. Our other sponsor is Shieldfolio, the world's most secure notebook for crypto seed phrases. It helps you protect your seed phrases, obviously, from prying eyes. It's written in an ultraviolet special ink, and literally you have to use a UV light. It's waterproof, and they are working on a fireproof one as well. There's the code right there. You can scan the QR code or put in Bitcoin Live 20 and get 20% off your next Shield Folio. And we want to thank everyone at Deorganized Media and everyone that has a show on Bitcoin Live, all the friends and fam. And obviously want to thank my producer, Nick, and co-host for hanging out as always. Sorry, Europe's normal and does their daylight savings time at the end of March, right before April, we used to do. But we changed it back in the late 90s, I think it was, which I enjoy because my birthday is literally a week usually after daylight savings time. So I get some more sunshine on my birthday, which is tomorrow.
Nice.
Um,
Congratulations.
Thank you. I actually have the day off, which is a rarity as well. So I'm very excited for that. But let's get into it. Today's episode is called Bitcoin is the Canary in the Coal Mine. And as you can see, this is a tweet from Watcher Guru from February 23rd. And on that day, the markets, as you could see, lost a ton of money. I think it was $700 billion, so almost $1 trillion liquidated on that day. Clearly, Bitcoin's been bleeding out for what I want to say 6 months. Yeah, look at that. That's a lot of money, people. Bitcoin's been, gone from 125, I think, to roughly 124 back in, I think it was October, and we've seen a retrace of roughly 50%. And in the show many times it said, don't be surprised. We won't get those 90% pullbacks, but don't be surprised if we get 30 to 50% pullbacks in the future, because it is a truly decentralized, open capital market. But as we can see now, the traditional markets obviously is due to geopolitics and other things going on. However, you can see Bitcoin was first to signal that there was trouble ahead. And that's what the whole show is about. We're not going to harp too much on this point, but this is what we're trying to allay to everyone, that since Bitcoin is a truly open, free market, that it will always predict the future before the traditional markets. Now, as obviously the traditional markets get more tied into Bitcoin, that might become more obfuscated in the future. But right now, it's still the leading indicator, in my opinion, to what's going to happen in the rest of the world. The next thing I wanted to share is a little video from Jack Mahler's, and I think Nick has that almost queued up, and I'll let Jack, speak for himself. And I agree with everything he's saying.
Here we go.
The last thing I will let happen to humanity is Jeffrey Epstein rob us humans of the invention that is Bitcoin. What is transpired with these email leaks and all of this data leak? Guys, it's very simple. The current system is disgusting. And for the future of our species and the future of our children, we have to fix it. We are battling the battle for human prosperity and the future for our kids. You have disgusting, pedophilic monsters running institutions, governments, countries, making extremely important decisions. We have to burn this existing system to the ground. Listen, we did not have a say in what we inherited. I'm young. I did not have a say in the world I inherited. But I'll be damned if I don't have a say in the world that I build, in the world that my kids inherit. Bitcoin will work. Open source software and distributed systems will prosper. Bitcoin is an open source project, meaning we get to see and audit everything. We can look at the code. If they implemented a backdoor, if they implemented something that was nefarious and malicious and destructive, we'd be able to see it. Bitcoin is a public utility. It's open to the world. And so we can all see it. Bitcoin is well engineered and functioning, and it doesn't matter what emails get leaked. The open source code doesn't change. Was a bad person involved when fire was invented? It doesn't matter. Fire is a utility. People can benefit from fire. How good of a person were the early internet pioneers? Does anyone know? I guess the point is Bitcoin's an open source utility. It's a neutral thing. It doesn't have feelings, emotions, intents. It's just a bunch of code that delivers a very useful utility like water, like fire, like steel. The last thing I will let happen to humanity is Jeffrey Epstein rob us humans of the invention that is Bitcoin. That's the last thing I will do. Fuck these people. If I have to go on CNBC every single day to ensure that the public knows that that guy has nothing to do with the credibility of this invention and how monumental it is for all of us to be living in this time and making use of this technology, I will do that. I will be damned if this guy's emails from a decade ago get in the way of Bitcoin. Bitcoin doesn't give a shit, and neither should anybody else.
Facts. So again, this is the powers that be trying to cast mud onto Bitcoin, right? Jeffrey Epstein knows nothing about Bitcoin. The guy doesn't know how to use Proton Mail, let alone how to do a Bitcoin transaction. Okay. So let's be very clear. If you're not familiar with Proton Mail, they're one of the few encrypted email companies out there, right? So the fact that he didn't know how to use encrypted email to do most of his communications just shows you he's not a tech savvy individual. And again, I know it's scary for people to hear that these people worship these demons from thousands of years ago. But again, I tell people the scariest thing about demonology and the stuff they do behind it is that it works. But again, God, I heard somebody use this analogy the other day. God's a slow cooker, right? You want to take the fast route. It usually leads to bad things, right? When you make deals with demons or the devil, remember they can revoke your contract anytime. And by the way, I've said this in my little TikTok because my TikTok's like literally 100%, Christian takes. God even talks to Lucifer, right? If he thinks your contract gets too big or you're ego's too big and he finds out, which he knows all, he can call in your marker too, right? Like, don't forget the story of Job. Job in the Bible was doing all well and dandy, and who comes along? Lucifer. Lucifer is like, hey, he only loves you because he's got all this good stuff. What happens if I take it all away? And obviously he took all his family away, he took his money away, he took his power away, and in the end Job realized that that's not important. The love of God is important. And just go back to the New Testament, straight to Jesus. And what does Jesus say? What is it worth? Is it worth your soul to have the world? No, it's not. Even he was tempted in the desert, right? We're in Lent. He was tempted for 40 days. And in that temptation, Lucifer appears to him and says, just turn this rock into bread. And he's like, man won't live on bread alone. And this is one of the things I like to impress about to people who don't understand the Bible. And I didn't mean to go off on a theology tip, but when people say Jesus never claimed to be God, baloney. Right in the second temptation, he says to the devil tempts him again, and he literally says to Satan's face, this is what he says: you have heard it written that thou shalt not tempt thy Lord God. And he's saying that to the devil's face, right? And then he tempts him one more time, and then he leaves, and then the angels come and, take care of Jesus out in the desert. Anyway, let's get back on topic.
Add something?
Yeah, go ahead.
For the people who want to know more about Epstein and how he might have been sort of connected to Bitcoin, because I totally agree with you and Jack Mallers. Douglas did a really good breakdown of the nonsense in his last video on Bitcoin and Epstein, FUD or based, where he sort of went through most of these emails and how they sort of tie together. I recommend you watch it. And he did a great job of dispelling, debunking this nonsense.
Yeah. Again, it's just more FUD to confuse the masses, because it's just a tactic that the 1% using, whether they're aligned with those forces or not. They want that Bitcoin. They don't want you to have sovereignty or freedom. All of their traditional models fall apart with AI. And even though they love AI, and some of them say they love Bitcoin, behind the scenes, they know that AI and Bitcoin destroys their traditional finance models, right? Like, they can't make debt slaves out of us much longer. And they don't like that, because all of that recurring revenue streams, right? Those monthly revenue streams, they get decimated. And we're seeing capital flight right now in multiple places, right? We're seeing private equity and private credit. All these people are trying to get out of private equity and private credit through BlackRock and JP Morgan. We're talking billions and billions of dollars. And you know what JP Morgan and BlackRock said? Nope. Yeah. Oh, so we got millionaires and billionaires across the world being told they can't have their money. So there's a whole bunch of people in the next couple of weeks going, well, I'm going to buy Bitcoin and figure this out, because they can't do that with Bitcoin. It's way harder. And that's a fact. We've talked about it time and time and time again.
You can also don't destroy data centers. You can't destroy Bitcoin data centers. For example, IBM.
Yeah, and that's the other thing that people don't realize. Even if a huge Bitcoin farm gets destroyed in Dubai, there's hundreds and hundreds of Bitcoin mining operations all across the globe, and Bitcoin will continue to run, right? Time and time again, when most of the miners were based out of China, when the rainy season started, if you were in the floodplain, you were getting flooded out. It's happened multiple times in China. These guys got flooded out. They lost tons of their equipment. And what happens? They just, boom, the mining just gets rebuilt or moves to a different jurisdiction, just like the Great China Migration. Sorry to cut you off. Go ahead.
And do you know which country is really getting big into Bitcoin right now?
Oh, yeah. Africa.
also
South
Iran.
Africa. Iran, yeah, of
also.
course. And that's another one. If you could pull up that tweet, that was probably, I think, one of my, yes, I think it was the second one I
Is
might
that
have sent you.
Kazakhstan?
The one from Dubai, stablecoin demand.
Okay, wait, I'm gonna check.
Yeah, because I'm trying to see how to share with the tablet. It's totally different, and it's throwing me a curveball. Because when I go to the bottom of the screen,
I think you didn't send that one, but I think you did post it today, right? That one.
yeah, you know what? I will send it to you right now because I have it right here. Boom, send.
Okay, thanks. I think I also have it in my timeline.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. Oh no, I didn't. Okay, wait, I didn't retweet this one. Okay, I'll put it up now.
Yeah, it should be coming. I just sent it to you. If you can't find it in your stream, it should be right there. And then I want you to actually, yeah, we're going to read this one first because this is really important, right? So this guy, Rami Al Hashimi, he lives in Dubai.
Oh, Gerald.
Yeah.
Your microphone was sort of. It's.
Oh,
I think
covered.
it's okay now.
Okay. Yeah, I just put my hand on the top of the screen. Sorry. Like I said, I just got the tablet. I was going to buy a keyboard and, get the little fancy keyboard with it. And the keyboard was almost as much as the damn iPad. I was like, yeah, no, I'm cool. I'm dropping like 400 on an iPad and I got to go grocery shopping. I think I'm done for today. But yeah, look at this tweet from, again, his name, because I do want to give people credit, is Rami Al Hashimi, and he lives and works in Dubai. Read what this says, right? Dubai stablecoin demand is going parabolic. I'm in Dubai. What I'm seeing this week is insane. OTC desks are flooded with people asking for USDC. Bank wires are getting slower, tighter, and harder above six figures. So money is moving on chain. USDC supply jumped $3 billion in 10 days. Now, that is a huge amount of money that's moving on chain. Now, if we go to that tweet, right underneath that tweet, there's a gentleman by the name of Niall Majok. Look at these numbers. These numbers are radically different, right? USDT 184 billion, up 25%. USDC 78 billion, up 40%. The craziest is the volume numbers. If you scroll down there, look at that number. USDC hit $1.26 trillion in February. That's a 70% share increase, and USDT volume logged 500 and almost $15 billion. Literally, those two combined, that's almost $2 trillion of capital that's just about to come flooding into the markets. What do you think they're going to buy? Some of them will take their stable coins. And here's another thing that most people don't realize. The Clarity Act, they're trying to hammer out percentages for yields for stablecoins. You can go right now on Venmo or PayPal, and they will give you 4% on your PYUSD, right? And there's the other two. And isn't that funny? Doesn't this tweet remind you of the tweet I sent to William Shatner? I was like, yeah. That's why I tagged him on this, because I wanted him to realize that fiat dollar technology that he's playing with X money is a joke. The same thing would happen if they were hitting where is I guess Twitter's is it in Austin now? I don't know where he's moved from, but let's say that, where is it?
I'll check.
Yeah. I knew it was in San Fran for like ever, but I'm pretty sure that he might have moved down to Texas just to save money on taxes, etc. The point being, let's say it was San Fran and there was an attack.
It's
and
in Texas.
It is in Texas?
Yeah.
Yeah. So let's just say, it's in Texas. Texas gets attacked. They get attacked. Well, what do you think happens to X money? It's just like a bank. It can go down, right? It's not decentralized. Even though I'm not a huge fan of Ethereum, most of these coins right now are running on the EVM. And again, I always tell people the EVM is better than your bank because at least it's more decentralized than the banking universe. And to see those numbers, we're talking $2 trillion in volume. What do you think's going on? People know, right? The people in Dubai are pooping their pants. If you're a millionaire living in Dubai and you want to move back to California or back to, Maine, New York, wherever, you're trying to transfer several $100,000, maybe several $1,000,000 from your Dubai account to a US account. And guess what they're telling you? Oh, it's only going to take like 2 months. You're like, F that. I'm going to buy stable coins. You throw them into your wallet and you could literally send them to your friend if you didn't, feel safe, carrying your phone because, your crypto wallet has like 300 million bucks on it. Send it to your friend, give them like a 5% or a 0.5% fee, whatever, to hold it for you. And you obviously got to trust this person with it like your child. If you have that much trust, they can just then do another transaction and send it back to you to your a different wallet when you hit the United States. I'm just putting that out there for, security reasons, because clearly there's a whole bunch of people in Dubai that are doing this and about to get on planes, right? So if you're one of these people and you happen to be watching this show, maybe you don't want to have all of that money on your phone. I'm just saying. Maybe you want to put it in a multi-sig wallet, etc. There's a whole bunch of things you could do to protect you from not getting kidnapped, as you land in wherever, whatever town you're moving back to, whether it's the United States or South America, El Salvador, Hong Kong, etc. But clearly, when there's $2 trillion in volume in stable coins, we're talking about real, world numbers. We've gone beyond the hundreds of billions and we're talking about trillions of dollars, which I said is going to come in to the cryptoverse, right? And we're about to see this play out right here and right now. And that's why, Bitcoin is the canary in the coal mine, right? It said months ago, bad stuff's coming, and here's the bad stuff, right? And now those people are in situations where they don't feel safe, right? So what are they doing? Oh, they want their money back. They can't get their money back? Okay, well, you can't stop me doing a transaction on one of these Dubai exchanges and converting all, if not all, your money to a stable coin. And then you're like, point and click, and you can send it anywhere in the world. That's why people are leaving traditional finance, just like the private equity and private credit, where BlackRock and JP Morgan and the like are like, no, you can't have your money back. Unfortunately, those people don't have that capability. If those funds are not liquid, they cannot transfer them to a stable coin or Bitcoin or Litecoin. They're just going to have to wait until they get permission from the banks to use their money, right? And that same thing that we saw in Australia a few years ago, when people want to go to the bank and take out $5, $10, $20,000 of their own money, what does the bank say? No. Why? Why do you need this money? What are you doing with this money? First off, none of your damn business. This is the whole point of Bitcoin, right? They want to keep capital controls. They want to know how you're spending every damn penny. F off. It's none of your damn business. Again, we've talked about this on the show multiple times. There needs to be a digital transactional bill of rights, right?
Yeah.
Ensuring our privacy, ensuring our right to transact freely when we want to, how we want to, whatever volumes we need. And that's why people all around the globe, whether you're a millionaire, billionaire, a pleb like me, are invested heavily into this space, because this is the future of finance. Because as soon as your money gets bottlenecked or trapped, you realize you aren't in control. You are not in power of your assets. You are not in control of your finances. That third party intermediary, where it's a bank, credit union, private equity, private credit, whatever it is, they control the flow of your money. And that got proved these last 10 days when BlackRock and the like were like, sorry, can't have your money back. You can have it in 3 months.
Yeah,
Great.
I think the banking system is going into a really tough time, the coming months.
Yeah, they can't compete. they don't get it, and they whine and complain that stablecoins getting yield hurts our business. Oh well. Again, you can go on Venmo right now. Even Venmo's like, and that's not even their stablecoin, right? PYUSD. That's PayPal stablecoin, but they're like, we'll give you 4% if you hold this coin. That's huge, right? Where traditional banks are giving you 0.0333% or 0.04%. Oh, I'm getting 0.4 of a whole point. Wow, thanks, banks. Yeah, maybe I can save up $5 in the next 10 years. Awesome. Um, they're clowns. They can't compete. That's why they're crying. That's why JP Morgan and Jamie Dimon, all these clowns are like, boo-hoo, we hate Bitcoin. Now we're like, we love Bitcoin. Yeah. Notice how they all turned on a dime. Larry Fink, Jamie Dimon, they're all bending the knee because they realize that this is not just money, right? It is, we had a whole show about this. Bitcoin is digital oil. It is the newest, hottest commodity on the block. And what does it do? It takes wasted energy in any form and turns it into hard capital. And that, my friends, is what we're seeing right now, right? I think I have another one. Let me see. Boo, 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 boo. From
Did you
earlier. Go ahead.
See the one from JP Morgan that is getting hit by a class action?
Oh yeah, because they were supposedly in on that crypto scam with that guy, right? Yeah, there it is. The 300, just a quarter, a third of $1 billion. They're getting sued. That guy's already in jail, right? I'm pretty sure they just sentenced that guy who was a part of this Ponzi scheme, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. So the scheme was run by. Oh, your microphone is gone.
Oh, sorry.
By Goliath Ventures and its CEO Christopher Delgado, who was arrested by federal authorities on February 24 of 2026. Investors were told their funds would be used for cryptocurrency trading strategies and digital asset arbitrage, but prosecutors alleged the operation functioned as a classic Ponzi scheme in which new investor funds were used to pay earlier investors. So it was a 328 million crypto Ponzi scheme. And JP Morgan is not very happy, I imagine.
Yeah, I'm sure they're not either. But again, Jamie Dimon, let's be very clear. I said this back, what was it, 2022 or 3, right when the ETFs got launched. And they asked Vanguard, why aren't you getting in on this? And then a year went by, not even a year, I think it was 6 months. And they fired the CEO of Vanguard. And then everyone on the planet was like, oh, it wasn't because of the Bitcoin ETF. But then the new CEO, guess who he was? Oh, the guy that helped build all the new Bitcoin ETFs. So clearly he got fired because he's a moron. And Jamie Dimon will follow suit. I've said this time and time again. Bitcoin doesn't care if you're a millionaire, a billionaire, a broke-ass person that's even living on the streets. If you figure out Bitcoin and why it's so powerful an asset, a commodity, and money, then you will eventually dig yourself out of that hole. But if your ego is as big as that guy from Vanguard, you will lose your 1% status, right? Bitcoin took out a 1%er because it doesn't give an F. This is a fact. Yes, here we are. Oh, that's another tweet I wanted to show. I think I just sent you the Van Eck one. Let me show.
Yeah. I got that one ready. Yeah.
Yeah, this is true, but look at this. We're seeing competition, right? And then I had another one. Let me send you that one first because that one was just as important. Oh, dag nabbit. Give me one.
Which one was that?
It's I don't think I sent it to you. Maybe I did. It's the one with Raoul Powell and Dan Moorhead. Yeah, pull that one up.
Okay, wait. Yeah, got it.
Awesome. Yeah, so let's play this and listen to what these guys say.
Yeah, I think it was also Raoul Pal who mentioned that gold often signals.
And China has roughly the same, I think.
Yeah, and China has roughly the same. No, no problem seeing them wanting to buy 1 million Bitcoins. It's still tiny compared to their balance sheets, budgets, all that stuff. And so if you have 2, 3, 4, like say the GC wants to buy 1 million, China wants to buy 1 million, maybe Russia wants to buy some, US, like it's going to squeeze up like a watermelon seed.
And China has.
Yeah, so let's be clear. This is Dan Moorhead. He's CEO of Pantera Capital. Yeah, I won't be surprised if China buys 1 million Bitcoin. Of course they will.
There's only 1 million left.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. They're liquid right now. There's about 2.5 million on exchanges roughly. So they could do this, but that would decimate the liquid supply. And then if the US announces that they're going to do it, which I am very positive that that's coming, right? I had a picture of the Treasury Secretary Bessent, right? He was shaking hands with who the other day, just a week ago. He's shaking hands with, the President Bukele. Oh, surprise. So what do you think they're talking about? You think they're talking about crime? No. They're talking about Bitcoin mining, how they're doing it. Oh, we're doing it with our volcano. We're using, they're using the heat from the volcano, right? Geothermal to run their generators. They're mining free Bitcoin. No one points this out. After your overhead is spent on geothermal, which could be a lot, at some point you break even real fast, especially when Bitcoin's getting close to $100,000+, right? So El Salvador has been mining Bitcoin pretty much no overhead after that and that operation's been there for years. They expanded it to obviously handle more of these ASICs, but they're mining Bitcoin with a free right? There's no overhead for that energy source, right? That geothermal, that volcano will keep kicking out that geothermal for another couple thousand years, unless the volcano blows up tomorrow. Please, Lord, don't. They'll be mining Bitcoin almost free, right? Obviously, there's the overhead for the people that work there, and they got to do upkeep and etc. But the amount of Bitcoin that they're buying and mining is insane, right? And they're not the only ones to do it, right? That's another tweet. Go ahead.
I think Michael Saylor and Bukele each bought new Bitcoin, right? Since the dip.
Oh yeah, Michael Saylor's been buying Bitcoin like crazy. They just bought another. I think they raised just this morning or yesterday. They raised in like an hour, like almost $500 million. I think it was like $400 billion to buy more Bitcoin, like that with their stretch. Their stretch asset. Hold on. Oh yeah, pull up that Van Eck one because that's the other next one that I wanted to show. This is huge, right? This is Van Eck letting everyone know what we talk about and what Daniel Batten talks about, what all the smart analysts are saying.
Okay, here we go.
As the ETFs came to market and gave regulatory clarity.
Oh, poor volume.
Custody of Bitcoin.
Not your fault.
The single biggest thing when you're managing other people's money, you can't hold the assets yourself. And so the ETFs unlocked that functionality for fiduciaries. And there's been a trend of, individuals selling their coins to the ETFs. And we're seeing more pension funds, more endowments. Last week, the first central bank to buy Bitcoin, the Central Bank of Kazakhstan announced that they'll be adding Bitcoin and digital assets. That really gets to my point about this intersection between the energy and electricity markets and the Bitcoin markets. Kazakhstan, famously sitting on huge reserves of nuclear power and electricity. So it's natural, we think, for them to adopt Bitcoin. There's a dozen countries like that are mining Bitcoin.
Oh, I'm sorry. What was that?
Government level, and we expect it to proliferate.
So that's huge, right? And we've been talking about that for over a year, right? We're saying there's easily 6 to a dozen countries that are secretly mining Bitcoin. We know El Salvador, Bhutan. Obviously, I've been saying South Africa is becoming a very huge player, and that prediction was correct with the announcement of that the airline in South Africa saying, "Oh, we're going to take Bitcoin for tickets." Oh, really? And then the other day, I forget what energy company. I don't know if it was. I think it was South Africa too, or I think it was South Africa or Nigeria. I'm not sure. They're going to be using their excess energy to Mine Bitcoin. Shocker. And then if you didn't see my video I shared last week, right? That's a solar farm that's like 3 miles from my house. And today, guess what? Today's going to be 55 again. So they're going to be, I looked them up. I think they're called Cypress Renewables. That's a 14 megawatt. Let me repeat that. 14 megawatt solar farm. On a day like today, it's a little windy, so people are probably using more heat today. But when it's not as windy and it's a day like 55 early in the spring, they are churning out 14 megawatts that probably 10 plus are not being used, right? So that's just wasted solar power. The same thing is happening. We've talked about this many times at T. Boone Pickens' huge wind farm in West Texas that he's leased out and sold portions to all these companies. Marathon was one of those companies. Guess what Marathon did the other day? Oh, they sold it to Canaan, right? And now Canaan's like, oh, we're going to be mining Bitcoin with wind power. Oh, so again, this is huge because we talk about this many times. Bitcoin unlocks all of this ESG stuff they've been trying to jam down our throats through policy, where Bitcoin does it instantly. Yeah, Bitcoin spurs major renewable projects from the ocean thermal to hydro. Everything can be used, right? Anytime there's excess generation of power and the demand is not there, what happens? It's called, oh, we're losing money. That's what happens. And that's why tons of solar farms go out of business and wind farms go out of business. If they're not massive enough to absorb those deficits, they eventually go under. Bitcoin makes all this possible. You never have any deficits anymore. Soon as you're wasting energy, what happens? ASICs on. Oh, demand's up. ASICs off. It's not complicated. There was another article from Daniel Batten. Here's one. I don't know if I sent you this one. I'm going to resend it to you. This one is exactly what we were talking about earlier. And I think me and Daniel Batten were probably the first two analysts to bring this up, right? That if you can do this with excess methane flare, you can do this with dumps, because as we discussed on the show, what happens is these dumps, they layer them almost like lasagna. And then after a certain amount of years of sitting in that hot sun in the summertime, it starts to bake and all that stuff decomposes. And then what starts to creep up through all those little cracks? Methane. Boom. Look at this. Just look at this chart. It's insane, right? Vented methane, 63.4. I think that's a T. I need to.
Yeah, that's a T.
Is that for trillions?
Yes.
Holy moly. So again, what we've said on this show is, I said that the wasted energy market is probably 10 to 20 trillion. No, it's somewhere between 100 plus trillion.
Oh, wait.
Right?
Wait.
Oh, wait.
It's tons.
Oh, it's tons.
A year.
Oh, it's 63.4 metric tons. Yeah. Okay, I'm glad we're on the same page. But still, the wasted energy market is somewhere between 10 and 50 trillion dollars, right? This is why I'm trying to build a Bitcoin company based off this right here, right? Because there is very poor security when it comes to solar farms and wind farms, because they use outdated technology that can literally be insta-hacked if you are like live, right? If you're running off of like a Wi-Fi signal or some type of even a space-based internet, like you have instant connectivity, they can be effed with. There was a solar farm in Poland that was shut down I think it was like 6 months ago. You know how much money they lost? A ton. So this idea that I have is amazing. I just need to start coding it out. I have the code. Now I just got to find the right app builder to help me build it. I heard there's this app out there called Super App, but when I go on to like the Apple App Store, there's like 50 different apps that say, well, maybe not 50. There's like a dozen or so. They're called super apps. Anyway, Eskom plans to sell spare daytime power to Bitcoin miners. Yes, this is the company, Scrolla, South Africa state-owned power company. Again, I said South Africa is going to start to figure this out. The president of South Africa's son was huge into Bitcoin mining. And this just shows you that from, the supermarket taking Lightning payments to the airline taking Bitcoin payments, now one of their biggest energy providers is figuring this out. If we want this farm to last for next 100+ years, we hook it up to ASICs, and we're always have money coming in during the good times when their demand's there, and when the bad times when there's no demand there, they just divert that power off to ASICs, and they're cha-ching, cha-ching, cha-ching. And depending on how big the operation is, it could be generating, a half a Bitcoin plus per week or per day, depending on how many megawatts of energy are being wasted. Let me see. I got some more here. Blue, I know you want to go to the park, buddy, but not just yet. Not just yet. Okay. He's been sick anyway. So let him say hi. Hi, Blue. Thanks for the kisses, bud. Yeah, you're such a good boy. I'm glad you're feeling better. Yo, your breath's kicking, bro. You got to back up. Let's see.
I got a couple here.
Yeah, go ahead.
So you sent me the one from Julian Figuera.
Yes.
I studied 12 Bitcoin billionaires.
That one's an interesting one. It's a little off topic, but I would like to just show it. It's a little long, but why not? Pull it up.
Okay. Here we go.
And I met him. He's a nice guy. He came to Bend one time, I think a couple summers ago, and we had dinner.
Okay, here we go.
Pass it 7 years later. And if you own Bitcoin today, you should probably know what these 3 tests are. The first test is ego. And I want to open this up by telling you something strange. There is a community of over 400,000 active members that post articles and memes about why Bitcoin is a scam. It's been going on for 15 years, even since Bitcoin was under $20 a coin. There's even one member named U/Border Patrol that's made 2,500 posts there since 2012. I cross-checked the dates of his posts, and if he had just bought $1 Bitcoin every time instead, he'd be sitting on approximately $4.3 million right now.
Wow.
Instead, he has a Reddit account and a legacy of being very, very sure about something. Now, I don't want to dunk on U/Border Patrol. I'm sure he's a really nice guy, or a very, very misguided golden retriever. But no other asset or stock in human history has generated so much sustained, organized opposition. And I think I know why. Understanding Bitcoin is not an intelligence test. It's an ego test. Larry Fink, the CEO of BlackRock, who now oversees 4% of the entire Bitcoin supply, used to call it an index for money laundering. Michael Saylor, everyone's favorite Bitcoin street preacher, who's definitely not sick of our stupid questions.
So let's just start at the beginning, if you don't mind, explaining what is it?
He called Bitcoin gambling in 2013. That tweet's still up. These aren't stupid people, but there's a psychological reason why it took both of them 7 years to come around. In 1980, Stanford researchers conducted a study with 130 subjects. 2 groups were given case studies about what makes for a good firefighter. One group was told that risk takers made for the best firefighters. The other group was told the exact opposite. A small fraction of each of these groups was then told to split up and create a discussion group to talk about the significance of the case studies and the correlations between firefighting and risk-taking. Only for the researchers to go, by the way, we made all of it up. There's absolutely no correlation between risk-taking and firefighting.
We made it up.
Oops.
We made this one up. It's fiction.
2 days later, these 130 gaslit people were asked what they believed in. And both groups, by and large, maintained what they had read in the case studies, even though they were told it was all made up. But get this, the people who had actually spent more time discussing these correlations between firefighters and risk, even more likely to stick with their original opinion and believe the case studies. Both of these groups could have said, I don't know, I'm not sure. But they didn't. Instead, their egos were attached to their first conclusion. You don't have to be a billionaire to get rich from Bitcoin, and you don't have to be early like you/Border Patrol. You just have to be able to say the 3 hardest words in the English language. I love you.
Love you.
Just kidding. Only my dad.
I was wrong.
I was wrong. Yeah, that also with those.
You know, I was like, oh, that's probably just a scam coin. That's going to collapse.
I have very strong views, but that doesn't mean I'm not wrong.
But you want to know what most Bitcoin investors don't want to hear? The ego test doesn't end when you finally buy Bitcoin. It just changes direction. Because now you are monetarily attached to being right about Bitcoin. And that is just as dangerous. When your dad finally calls asking why you Hiroshima'd his retirement account buying iBit or MSTR, you probably won't say, I was wrong. You'll find a new narrative, change the goalposts. And if you found yourself doing that lately, there's a second test you're gonna have to pass first. Nobody likes being humiliated, except for furries, but that's a different video. But that's what makes Bitcoin unusual. Most assets, when they crash quietly. Your Apple stock drops 60%, your coworkers don't give a shit. They're too busy watching The Office or debating about whether or not pineapple belongs on pizza. It totally does, by the way, and you might have taste issues if you disagree. But when Bitcoin drops 60%, everyone knows. To the point where, for the first time, Google Trends actually shows more people interested when Bitcoin's crashing than at its peak. The early Bitcoin adopters actually had this a lot worse. They didn't come in with Sailor's millions. He already had 3 mansions and a yacht in Cannes before he even bought his first Bitcoin. They also didn't have a whole past performance or 4-year cycle chart to fall back on to explain why the price was down at a particular moment. What they did have was their original reason, their original thesis for entering Bitcoin in the first place. Permissible 24/7 freedom money. Tim Draper bought 40,000 Bitcoin at $6 a coin back in 2011. Lost all of it in the Mt. Gox hack. You got to imagine what his peers and family members were thinking, all pitying him. His first reaction, by his own account, was, this is the end. But then he sat on it for a bit, and he realized that nothing had fundamentally changed in the value thesis of Bitcoin. So he bought back in. Bought 30,000 Bitcoin from the US Marshals for 14 million, now worth over $3 billion today. Every investor or founder worth studying held onto something while people laughed, pitied, or mocked them. Howard Schultz was rejected by 217 banks before he was able to open the first Starbucks. Jeff Bezos pitched Amazon to 60 friends and family members, and they all said no. Maybe because he hadn't entered his Pitbull era yet. Humiliation is so consistent across great outcomes that at some point, you kind of have to ask if it's a feature. And for life in general, no offense, if you are not being humiliated by something right now, you're probably not doing anything that matters. Everything worthwhile asks you to look stupid at first. Like the first time I tried to use my phone abroad and spent $90 on 3 days of data that didn't even work. Luckily, you don't have to look stupid if you use BitRefill. BitRefill is a top tier,
okay, we can pause. Now it's the ad.
That
no worries.
Kicks the.
But yeah, the point is, right? There is going to be always people that hate Bitcoin and that don't even know why, right? They don't even get it. Like there's still people I have to debate online. There's no utility for Bitcoin. We just showed.
Do you know? I've been watching Pompliano lately because he does some great stuff on AI and also Bitcoin. But what he people when they add or say that, he say.
Yeah, again, to all these people that still don't get it. It is the newest commodity on the market and it's liquid as hell, right? It can go anywhere in the world instantly. And when you mine it and you, like I said, you're using this wasted energy, whatever it is, solar, wind, geothermal, tidal, etc. Your company is going to flourish, right? Because Bitcoin's not going to zero. It never will. We're coiling right now at what, like 70K. It's been coiling at right around 65 to 70K for like what, a month almost. And don't forget, my handle is GER313. That's also my birthday. Bitcoin has this history of literally going nuts on March 13th. And it goes back to March 11th of, yep, there's my account. Please follow. I always forget to say that. Please follow and, like our video and like our content. I never say that because I'm not a huge ham. Everyone thinks I'm a huge ham, but I never say those things that often. Anyway.
You share great content. For the people who are not following you, follow Gerald, because you always catch those those gems out there and give great commentary on it.
Thank you so much, sir. I appreciate that immensely. But yes, so my birthday happens to coincide with many Bitcoin all-time highs. And I started to research this after reading an article by Matti Greenspan where he had learned about Bitcoin around the same time back in 2011 because the Cypriotic banks were collapsing. And what was starting to happen? People found out about Bitcoin, right? So all these Russian oligarchs and rich Cypriots and middle-class Cypriots who were getting most of their money taken by the banks were like,
haircut.
Yep, getting a haircut in their accounts. They were going, F that. I'm going to move to this new protocol. Well, anyone that did that in 2011 and kept that stash, they are uber wealthy right now, right? So not every year, but many times around March 11th to March 13th. And again, it's happened on March 13th. I want to say over a dozen times, Bitcoin has hit a new all-time high on my birthday, like magic almost. My handle's always been that. I didn't know this until after becoming a Bitcoin like 8+ years ago, right? I didn't even learn it until probably like 5 years ago when I literally, like I said, I started doing research after I read Matty's article, and that's how he got into Bitcoin, because he saw all these rich people be like, we're not taking this haircut. We're going to get into Bitcoin. And then once I started researching it and following the 4-year cycle, I started noticing this pattern, because that's one of my specialties as an analyst. I see patterns way before a lot of people do, is that Bitcoin's productivity, when we're talking about number go up, is very insane around March 13th. Now, I'm not saying it's going to go hit a new all-time high tomorrow, but I wouldn't be surprised if we go back to 80, 90, maybe even 100K in the next couple of days. And this has just been a historical pattern that's been repeating itself. Now, what do we have happening this year? Oh, we have this big conflict in the Middle East, and people in Dubai, and people in Qatar, and people in UAE, and people in Iran are all going, I need to get my money out of this country and get out of the region. So what are they doing? They're buying stable coins. They're buying Bitcoin, right? They're buying all of this stuff to get the F out of Dodge. Yes, here's another one. This is our own Secretary of the Treasury letting people know that we've weaponized the dollar. This is another reason you have to, I'm not the hugest Donald Trump fan in the world, but I tell people you have to be paying attention. He's doing things that are outside of the red team's ideologies and outside of the blue team's ideologies, right? He's literally spilling the beans that the US dollar has been weaponized since 1971, right? When they took us off the gold standard, what happened? Oh, George H.W. Bush met with OPEC, right, in Saudi Arabia, and they said, we're going to make the U.S. dollar the petrodollar going forward, right? And all the OPEC countries agreed to this. And not only was it the petrodollar, but all capital goods will be traded in USD. And in doing that, what happens? Well, you give the World Bank or the IMF gives a loan to country A through Z, and then inflation starts happening. Well, again, they all this money in their paper currency, as their paper currency is going this way and the dollar's going this way, what happens? It makes it impossible for that country to ever pay us back. So then they have to make deals with us, right? Okay, we'll take another loan, or we'll give you some oil, or we'll give you some lumber, or we'll give you some coal, whatever it is. They figure out a deal so that their economy doesn't collapse. Now, we've discussed this time and time again on the show, talking about economic colonialism. That's what that's all about, right? And they've
Yeah,
done it to
you know,
Africa for years. Go ahead, sorry.
you have Jeremy Perkins, who wrote The Economic Hitman.
Oh yeah, Jonathan Perkins.
Yeah.
That book is amazing, and some people read it like he's full of baloney. No, now we can see with the Epstein files, right? This is how the U.S. government did business for years, right? They send in an engineering firm, right? Under the guise that and most of the people that work for the engineering firm are engineers, but there's usually like 1 to 3 analysts that are not. They work for the NSA, they work for the CIA, they work for DOD, whoever 3-letter company they work for. They're told to inflate the numbers, right? So then when that country goes and gets this loan, then what happens? It only costs X amount to build the infrastructure, but then all of that extra money, what happens? It goes to this guy and this leader and this president and this senator in this country, right? And if you don't play ball, what happens? Oh, your plane falls out of the sky, right? And this has been going on since this, right? Another
your microphone.
Sorry, again, my bad. This is another reason that they hate Bitcoin, right? Because this takes their power away, right? This is why we're seeing the FUD about Epstein, about Bitcoin right now, because this is one of their big power plays, right? They go into a country, and we're not the only ones to do this, right? China does this ad nauseum as well. They go into an African country, they're like, we'll build you a stadium. Here's a new soccer stadium. They'll spend a ton of money building this soccer stadium, and then they sign off on it, right? It's not an MOU. They're literally signing contracts with China. And the next thing they know, their lawyers get to like page 50 and they're like, wait, we have to give up all our timber rights and our some of our diamond mines. What? And then yet China's like, yes, thank you. Bye-bye. And at least we do it. At least we stab you we don't stab you in the back. We're going to stab you in the face, right? Like, does it really, like, kind of sneakily, right? They do it like literally. They're like, yeah, we're not going to do anything. We're just going to build this stadium, and then yeah, we want to build this rail line going through your whole country. Right? What? And they did that. Don't just go look at Darfur. That's exactly what they did in Darfur. They put up this huge oil pipeline that runs from the north to the south. They have, I think, before, another reason we went into Venezuela, which most people don't realize, is because China's got a lot of military in Venezuela. Guess where they have a lot of military also in Africa? Sudan, right? And there's a reason for that, because there's lots of oil there. And the reason why we didn't go in there for so many years or do anything is because we didn't want to mess with China's oil operations, because that would lead to a bigger conflict. That's the only thing we really got to pay attention to right now. I know who is it, Sung Lee, and you were sharing out his tweet the other day. That's what we have to pay attention to. If we see China get involved with Iran, I would then worry. At the moment, I will not worry as much, because, like I said, they are diverting in Qatar. They have a pipeline that's diverting oil to the the west coast of the Arabian Peninsula, and then Saudi Aramco has a huge pipeline that's doing the same thing. Now they have to obviously open up those pipelines and get the oil flowing, get those obviously refiners on that coast to be ready to start pumping oil in the tankers. That could take weeks, that could take months, but I don't think we're going to have this oil embargo or oil shortage that everyone's predicting, unless China gets involved. If China gets involved, all bets are off. So that's the only thing, major concern I see in a geopolitical macro lens, because, my degree is in political science. If China starts to step in and help Iran, I would then really worry. The people who say, oh, Iran's this and that. Yes, Iran's got a decent military. Iran's got a decent navy. But again, from the video I saw just a few months ago, right, where they posed these two people off at a tech seminar as androids with bad makeup on. Yeah, I'm not too worried about their high-end technology. Their hypersonic missiles, yes, they're very effective and very dangerous, but they don't have as many as they claim to have, right? They might have a few dozen, maybe 50 tops, and they've used a bunch already. So they're running out. The United States, France, and Great Britain has more high-end technology, and the Israelis, than if you put those four countries together, the Mossad, the CIA, French intelligence, and MI6, those four agencies together, they can do or undo anything in the world. So I tell people, as long as China's not stepping in at the moment, I think it should be okay. Because whether you believe they have radiological materials or not, they've killed somewhere between some estimates are 30,000 of their own citizens in January into February. Some estimates are like 100,000+ people, right? So they're slaughtering their own people because they want freedom from this oppressive regime. That's the real take, right? This is not baloney. There's many, many people that don't like the Islamic regime of Iran anymore. We talked about this in the show many times, right? 50,000 mosques have closed in the last 5 years. You can Google this. There is many people leaving not only the religion, so I'm sure there's some that are becoming atheists, whatever. The point is, that's not freedom, right? When I heard this story from this girl who visited Iran about 4 or 5 years ago. She had some, I didn't know if she was getting a nose job for looks or she's getting a nose job because she had some breathing issues, whatever the case. She went to Iran because they have really good healthcare, really good doctors, and it cost her like a quarter as much as getting it done here. When the plane landed, they took off from Turkey and landed in Tehran. As soon as they landed, everyone panicked because they knew as soon as they start to exit this plane, the cultural police have their eyes on them. So all the women covering up, all the men, putting away their phones, taking off all of their Western stuff, whether it's jewelry or whatever. That's fear, right? That's not freedom. They lead through fear and not freedom. True freedom isn't represented that way, right? True freedom is I respect the law. I don't have to fear the law. And that's the huge difference. But we've gone in there because there's hundreds of thousands of expats that live here because of what happened in 79, right? People left because they're like, I'm not living here. This is crazy. And those people here, you could see them in the protests, right? All of the people on the far left are like, no, this is bad. And they're like, F you. They've just killed a couple small cities worth of humans because they don't like the way they think, right? And that's not cool, right? And again, this is why we're seeing Bitcoin take off more in Iran and the Middle East, is because of all of this, not just calamity, but because Bitcoin offers real freedom, right? And I know the stablecoin markets are booming, but we've talked about this many, many times. Stablecoins are way more trackable and traceable than Bitcoin, right? And they can be boop. They can put, if your OX address gets blacklisted, oopsies. You obviously, if you're smart, you're just going to open up another Ethereum wallet. But that's how dumb. But if they listed that wallet that has all your funds, you're not exiting those funds, right? So Paxos's dollar, they can do that. Binance dollar, they can do that. PYUSD, they can do that. Can't do it with Tether. I'm sure they can do it with USDC. That's why they're making USAT. They're the banking version of Tether. I'm sure they can track that one. Now, let's be clear. And there's pros and cons, right? I'm not going to say that that's evil. I'm just saying if they don't like a transaction you did, bloop, we're stopping your wallet, right? They did that with that kid in Hong Kong. he said free Taiwan, right, on one of his social media accounts, and they froze his Flow wallet, and his Flow wallet had like somewhere from like 200 to like $500,000 worth of NFTs, and I'm sure he had some, stable coins or something else in that wallet too that he couldn't touch. But literally just for speaking up about freeing Taiwan from China's rule. And guess what? Flow isn't a Chinese company, right? They were influenced by the Chinese government to say, no, he can't say that. And they're like, okay, click, and shut him down. And we talked about this on the show a couple of months ago, right? There is a new class of citizen in China, right? You say something bad on WhatsApp. Oh, we're shutting off your rail pass. Oh, we're shutting off your bank account. Oh, now you're homeless, right? They're creating digital homeless nomads because of things they criticized about the government. This is horrible, right? And this is the one thing that I point out to people who are still brainwashed, right? I'm not a huge Trump fan, but think for yourself. Use your own brain, right? Keir Starmer, right? He's having people arrested left and right for saying stuff about him on Facebook, on Twitter, whatever. Do you see anybody in the United States getting arrested for talking smack on Donald Trump? No. Are they using social media more to track down people in the West? Yes. I saw this lady get arrested for posting a Snapchat in California, but she was talking about unaliving one of her students. Yeah, maybe you shouldn't do that. Just saying. She was kidding. Obviously, it was a poor, tasteful joke. But as I've said many times on the show, Snapchat has a direct link to the FBI. And you know what the officer said to her? The FBI flagged this and sent it to us. So yeah, all you Snapchat people, yeah, stop using it. Just saying. And if you are using Snapchat, I wouldn't be saying anything using the unalive word or anything with the B word, because they are monitoring it now with AI, right? So it's not even a human. The word comes up, AI flags it, they send it to the FBI, FBI calls up local authorities, and yeah, did you post this? Yeah, I did. Come with us. So again, free speech is being tested all over the world. But if you want to comment about Donald Trump and say you don't like him or you hate his guts, whatever, it's America. You can do that. You can't do that in the UK. You say you hate Keir Starmer and they're literally locking you up. That teacher, right? There's that teacher from Ireland or Scotland, right? He refuses to use the proper pronouns for this woo-ka-doo person, and he's going to jail. Now his mom and his sister were praying for him to get out of jail. They're arresting them now for praying for him to get out of jail. That's the kind of insanity we're dealing with, right? And that's not coming from the extreme right. That's coming from the extreme left. Let's be very clear. The extreme right and even the center moderates like us, we believe in freedom of speech, right? Whether it's pretty or not, it's freedom of speech. People should be allowed to say whatever they want, whether you agree with it or not. That's your own opinion, but your feelings, right, don't care about free speech. That's what these younger generations have to realize. You're overly sensitive to words. Get over it. Get the F over it. Because you're going to do one of these things, right? You're going to tweet out like, oh, unalive this person. And if they're in significant prominence, like that person just did it about one of her students, and they had the local police knocking on her door. So let's be real clear. If you start saying that stuff online about elected officials, trust me, they will lock you up, whether it's here or there. And they're already doing it over there, and they just started to doing it over here. And you know what stops that even more? Bitcoin. Because again, freedom money. And just like Jack Mallers was saying in his video, right? If you want real freedom, if you want to take back this system from those scumball, pedophile, demon worshiping dildos, pardon my French, Bitcoin is the way. Bitcoin was sent by God. I've said this time and time again, to protect us from the money debasers. It's immutable. It's infinite. It is literally so many has so many godlike properties. And then I know we're going to do a show about it in the future. I'm going to write a short piece about it. But then I started to go through the Bible, and God talks about corn a lot in the Bible, right? And I know on TikTok, corn means something else. Well, on X, corn means Bitcoin. So we're taking that word back. Go find another word for your silly adult content, because I don't like that you call it corn. That's corny, pun intended. But yeah, when we say corn, we're talking about BTC, not adult BS, because that's from the devil. I'm sorry to say. I know most people don't want to hear that. But all of that adult crap is from El Diablo himself to get your eyes to do what? Start worshiping the flesh. And I know I don't want to get on my high horse, but I took a vow of chastity almost 18 months ago, and it's the happiest I've ever been in my life. And I'm in pain every day, right? Because of my shitty autoimmune disease. And again, why is that? Well, think about it. When you were a kid, you probably didn't have sex until you're like 14 to 18, right? And guess what? Those are some of your happiest years of your life, right? So take back your sanity, right? Get away from that crap. Start learning what Bitcoin is. Start learning what sovereignty is all about. Start learning what real freedom is about. Because if you keep playing these extremist games, whether it's the far left or the far right, you're going to get lost in the darkness. These are facts. But again, Bitcoin is the canary in the coal mine. Yeah, I was the first analyst to say this, by the way. I'd like to point this out. It's one of the few cool Bitcoin heads that I have the receipts on, right? Is that I was the first analyst to say this way before Fidelity Digital Assets and their analysts said this, I guess in 2021. I said this back in 2019, I think it was. I ran the numbers and I was like, wait a second. This M1 supply keeps growing. Well, if the M1 supply keeps growing and they're not going to give a crap about deficits, well, then Bitcoin's easily going to hit, I was like 500 million. I was like, it might hit 1 billion. And I was like, boom. And I posted out that tweet. And that was 2019. I got a lot of people like, you're crazy, bro. You're crazy, bro. You're crazy, bro. You're crazy, bro. Yeah. Well, when Bitcoin hits 1 million, that tweet's going to look amazing, right? But yeah, Bitcoin's the canary in the coal mine. It keeps showing us what's going to happen in the world because it is truly the open market, free open market capitalism that we've all looked for. Yeah, that's another big story. Let's just get that in real quick. If you live in the US domestically, Miles from Square they have made a bounty. So if you go help clients open up their Bitcoin account on their Square app, they will give you $25 and they'll do it up to 10 times. Now, I know $250 doesn't sound a lot, but $250 in sats right now is a lot of sats, right? And those sats could equal hundreds of thousands, if not potentially millions of dollars at some point in the future. So take advantage of that and realize we're heading into this crypto economy, right? This is the truth, right? I've been dreaming of this day. I've been dreaming of these times. And the other thing is, right, they're trying to hold back the Clarity Act. Who's trying to hold back the Clarity Act? Oh, you mean the banks and then some of the, crypto exchanges? You have no authority in these, you have zero authority to make law. Let's first point that out. Coinbase, JP Morgan, BlackRock, they have any authority to pass any legislation, right? And I've said that the president can write an executive order. And at the same time, I came to the conclusion just a couple of days ago, the CFTC and the SEC has all the authority they need to manage this. And then what do we see the other day? The CFTC chairman and the SEC chairman shaking hands are like, oh, we can figure this out. Correct. You don't need the banks. You don't need Coinbase. You don't need Binance. Figure it out. The United States needs this because Bitcoin is the future of money. And if we aren't the leaders of it, we will fall so far behind. Like China's playing catch up. They're literally playing catch up every day because they think their economy is doing so well. And yes, I think their exports last quarter were up like 22%, if I'm not mistaken. That's great, but you're missing out on the most important asset in the world. And as soon as China's energy companies figure this out, Bitcoin's going to $10 million, right? Because they have, you know how many solar farms China has? Holy canasta, a lot.
Yeah. Yeah, this was, I think we covered, this is the last one that you sent me, the one about Bitcoin mining. Bitcoin mining is coming home.
Yeah.
So there's a video attached to it. Do you want me to play it?
Yeah, let's play that and we'll wrap it up.
Yeah.
Well, one thing that's obvious is that the people love it, right? People want more of it. Whenever we share Bitcoin news videos of people heating their water heater with Bitcoin miners or their home, they just lap it up. They can't get enough of it. They love to share it. So Tyler, let's dive into your world. You come from a background of aerospace thermal engineering, and then you found yourself heating homes with Bitcoin miners. How did that transition happen, and where are we at now with Bitcoin heaters?
Yeah, it was a brief stint in the aerospace industry after college. I actually wanted to go automotive, but anyways, I got brought out here doing aerospace on the thermal team. And so a lot of my job was assessing temperatures, heat rates, all this stuff, thermal modeling. You see those like thermal imaging cameras, that kind of stuff. And I started going to Bitcoin meetups, and I saw some folks bring in their S9s with 3D printed cases and aftermarket Noctua fans to make them quieter, 120 volt mods so they could run them on household outlets. And I immediately saw these things as electric heaters. Like, how I like to frame it is all this industrialization we've been talking about. How do you outcompete the other guy, right? Bitcoin has this natural game theory effect where it's like you just got to always be following the carrot on the stick in front of you to get the more efficient machine to outcompete. What that led to is these shoeboxes being as densely packed as humanly possible. And so they're literally designed to the point where they're all thermally bottlenecked. Every miner on Earth is thermally bottlenecked. If you can imagine, they would put more hash rate in it if they could. But the problem is they can only cool it X amount. And so that's where I immediately saw them as like, if they're thermally bottlenecked, they're just heaters. That's as much heat as you can get out of it without melting the machine. And so that's what really coined my interest in this movement. I spent the better part of a year chatting with all the folks building and hacking and making cool stuff. Documented that, which ultimately led to a book that Brains published, Bitcoin Mining Heat Reuse. Hosted the first Heat Punk Summit shortly thereafter, kind of bringing everyone up to speed alongside some plumbers and tradesmen that I knew in the area. And the movement's really caught on, to my surprise. And as you said, people love this stuff. They want mining back in the home. They want to be a part of the network fully, right? Not just running their node and their start 9. They want a BitAxe on their desk. And then they might say, well, how could I get more hash rate in my house? Is it 100 more BitAxes? Or maybe there's something I could strap to my pool heater, or whatever it is. I mean, the tie is there. People see the connection with the electric heating and the hash rate. And so that's what sparked the hash rate heat punk movement. I would say we're like a community movement trying to apply like the application layer of what Scott started with the BitAxe. We show that if you open source and you strip a miner back to its core principles, that utility I talked about earlier for demand response for the larger guys or monetizing stranded resources, what's the most useful thing in your house? It's like everyone pays for heat in some capacity. Even in warmer climates, there's water heaters, right? And so that's, I think, just the most natural connection to the average person. How can I get the most hash rate? What's the best bang for my buck? How can it be maximally useful to me? And that's hash rate heating. And so we're trying to marry these two industries, Bitcoin mining and electric heating, so that it's a viable option that you could have in your infrastructure and appliances.
Shall I continue or?
I mean, nah, that's fun. But yeah, I mean, we discussed this on one of the shows, right? Like, if you understand basic thermal dynamics, right, this is exactly what this gentleman's talking about, right? Like, ASICs are little heat boxes, right? There's thousands of applications, right? Like, I just was in my head as he's talking. I was like, yeah, there's a Bitcoin dryer coming out for your clothes, right? Someone's going to make it, right? We've got the water heater. We've got, actual space heaters. the dryer for, I don't think it'll be GE, but I'm pretty sure somebody's going to make a clothes dryer, because guess what? They kick out tons of heat. And if something kicks out tons of heat, it can mine Bitcoin, right? It's not rocket science. You put like 3 ASICs into a box and you've got a dryer that mines your Bitcoin, right? Now, obviously they have to build a slick wallet that has good UI and good UX, but yeah, there's the handshake. Exactly what I was just talking about. And look at their smiles on their faces. They know what's about to happen. They know that this golden age of crypto is going to keep America in the forefront, as, you know, a primary player in the power schema of the world, right? If you're not going to be into Bitcoin, that means you don't understand energy, you don't understand finance, you don't understand physics, you don't understand thermodynamics, you don't understand economics. And that's, guess what? That's a lot of the population of the globe. But the people that understand those, like Satoshi, you know, if you've read my paper on who the real Satoshi is, the first thing I explain about Satoshi is that he was like the super genius of our time, right? He was, he understood law, code, cryptography, right? History. I mean, the guy was a true Rhodes Scholar, right? From top to bottom, which I aspire to be. Thank you, Lord. And through that, I started to, you know, dial back, like how many people in the world could be experts in all these fields. And then linguistically, I got the hint from McAfee, right? If you look at his original coded message in the first block, when he's saying, you know, what is it? The exchequer of the banks, right? Well, that's a reference to British banks. So if you start reading Satoshi's gleanings from the Satoshi Institute, you start to learn that this guy speaks in North American vernacular with some British vernacular, which is very, very rare, right? Even British people that have lived here for like many years don't do that, right? And then I noticed it in the writings itself, right? I pointed out that he spelled color like a British person, right? He doesn't spell color like a North American. And that's what it led me to go down this rabbit hole and, you know, finally be like, this is the guy. And then if you read my article, I'm not going to say who I think it is because I want you to read it, but go to my Medium page. I think it's either GSV 313 or GER 313. The guy that I claim it is, and people say it's not him, it's not him. Baloney. He built a website called eCheck, right? And eCheck is built not only on C+, right? It's SHA-256 cryptography. And it was like the first program that you could use to make a digital check, right? And maintain the private keys, right? I don't have the article up anymore. I have that main tweet from my, about, you know, Bitcoin going to $1 billion at some point. But yeah, I think my Medium, yeah, there it is at GSV 313. But I literally, thank you. I start to find that this guy who built this eCheck website, it's literally the whole foundation of Bitcoin, right? There's no way it could be two totally different people. Like he literally built 85% of Bitcoin. And it's called eCheck. Now you can't find this website anymore because it's been obfuscated and hidden 10 times over. I think I tried to put links into it. But this, again, everything that this original website called eCheck, the nickname was called Crypto Kong, right? And literally that's what Bitcoin became. Bitcoin has become this King Kong of the financial industry. And just read the article. It's very technical. If you're not a technical person, you might have to, it's like the white paper. You might have to read it several times because it's like 20 pages. But what you realize is that for it to be two totally different people, that the one that built this site and then the one that designed Bitcoin, and then they literally use almost similar phrases in British and in North American vernacular. Again, the probability of those being two different people in the universe are like 1 in like 500 billion, right? It's like 0.00000000000000001% possibility that it's two different individuals. Now, the team that built Bitcoin was a group of people, clearly, but the foundation, this e-check website, is literally, like I said, like 85 to 90% of Bitcoin's foundation. Anyway, I didn't mean to go off on a tangent before he wrapped it up, but go read the article. It's a great article. It was funny, is when that article first came out, I literally had like a couple news studios call me up like, oh, we want to interview you, and nothing happened. It was so weird. Like they just pumped the brakes and never wanted to speak to me again. But I tell people, go read the article, because my article is probably the most researched out of all the articles, and I'm a tech guy, right? Everyone else has written these articles. We're journalists writing about technology. I'm a technologist who became a journalist. So there's a huge difference there. And I know some code, whereas most of these journalists know zero code. Like I learned Python data science because I wanted to get job as software as a sales person. And the first couple companies that I emailed and applied to, they're like, do you know Python? I was like, no. And they're like, well, we need you to know some Python. I was like, all right, I guess I'm learning Python. So then I learned Python data science, because why not? But yeah, go read the article. Thank you, Nick, for hanging out as usually. Thank you for sharing all the important stuff, because again, this sharing on the iPad is not like sharing on my old laptop.
Yeah, I was just support in the background.
But as always, thank you to all our sponsors: Quantum Expeditions, Quantum Economics, Shieldfolio, the team at Deorganized Media, Peace, Love, and the crew there. And thank you to all the people that have a show on Bitcoin Live Network. And of course, Blue wants to get some love in at the end. Thanks, Blue. And don't be surprised if Bitcoin goes nuts tomorrow. Peace.
I hope so. Take care.
Take care, brother.